Her heels struck my kitchen tiles like hammers against glass, each step sharp, claiming space that wasn't hers. Ashley didn't knock. She never did. She swept in, wrapped in a red dress, lips stretched in that practiced smile, the one that made me feel like an intruder in my own home. "Susan," she began, her voice dipped in sugar but edged with steel. "Wonderful news. My whole family is coming here for Christmas. It's only 25 people." Only 25. As if preparing meals, cleaning rooms, and setting tables for a crowd was as effortless as breathing. She dropped into my chair, crossed her legs, and started listing names the way someone reads off a shopping list. Cousins, uncles, nieces. Each syllable felt like another stone on my chest. She didn't ask if I was willing. She never asked. She assumed. "You'll take care of everything," she went on. "The food, the cleaning, the decorating. We'll need 3 turkeys at least. And that chocolate dessert you make, it has to be perfect for photos." For 5 years, I had said yes. Yes to dinners. Yes to cleaning. Yes to being invisible. I thought it would keep the family together. Thought it would keep Ryan close to me. But as I looked at her that morning, something inside me hardened. "Perfect," I said. Her smile widened. She thought I'd surrendered. "It will be perfect for you," I continued, voice calm, steady, final, "because I won't be here." Her cup rattled against its saucer. Color drained from her cheeks. For the first time in 5 years, Ashley had no script ready. "My name is Susan Miller. I am 66 years old, and in that kitchen, I began my first act of rebellion." What would you do if your family treated you like staff in your own home? Tell me your thoughts below, and if this story resonates, join Roots and Secrets to hear more journeys like this one. Her name still rang in my ears as silence fell across the kitchen, the sound of her cup trembling against porcelain the only music. For a moment, I thought she might laugh, wave it off as one of my empty threats. But the look in my eyes told her otherwise. She blinked, mouth open but mute, and for the first time since she married my son, I watched her composure unravel. It had not always been this way. In the early months after the wedding, I tried to convince myself that obedience was a form of love. The first time she asked for coffee, I smiled, eager to be helpful. When she asked me to clean the dishes after a dinner with her friends, I told myself it was easier than arguing. When she slid into my chair at the head of the table, I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced a smile. Each small surrender seemed harmless, yet they piled up brick upon brick, until the wall of silence between us was taller than the roof that sheltered us. My son noticed less and less. The boy who once perched on the counter watching me knead dough, eyes wide with questions, no longer saw me at all. Now he glanced up only when Ashley prodded him, when she wanted me to fetch something or arrange another meal. He would sigh, mutter, "Mom doesn't mind," and bury himself back in his phone. Invisible, that was what I became. I tried to frame it as sacrifice. Family means giving. I told myself in the quiet of my bedroom, long after the sink was empty and the table was cleared. But sacrifice without recognition becomes something else. Humiliation disguised as devotion. Thanksgivings passed in the same pattern. I roasted turkeys that fed crowds she had invited, while she posed with glasses of wine, taking credit for feasts she never touched a pan for. Easter brunches saw me rising before dawn to set tables, polish silver, iron napkins. She would descend hours later in a pastel dress, claiming compliments as though they had sprouted from her smile. Birthdays blurred into weekends of errands, my errands, for her glory. One winter, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. She laughed, light and breezy, the kind of laugh that would charm anyone unfamiliar with its sharp edges. "Susan loves it," she said. "It makes her feel useful." That word, useful, struck harder than any insult. I had given my life to raising a family, to building this house with my husband, to making sure my son never lacked a thing. And in her mouth, I was reduced to an appliance, a vacuum, a coffee machine, something she could brag about as long as it performed. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the darkness pressing heavy against me. My husband had been gone for years, yet I imagined his voice filling the silence. Respect your mother. What would he have said to our son if he could see this now? I closed my eyes and tried to believe I was stronger than resentment, but each day proved me wrong. By the time December came, the bitterness was no longer a whisper. It was a tide. And when she walked into my kitchen that Tuesday, announcing 25 guests as casually as one orders groceries, the tide broke its banks. I saw every insult layered behind her painted smile. Every evening I had cooked while she slept. Every morning I had scrubbed while she lounged. Every time I had vanished so she could shine. And I heard my own voice, calm, steady, say the words I had never dared. I won't be here. When Ryan came home minutes later, his reaction cut deeper than hers. Mom, don't you think you're being dramatic? Dramatic, as though standing up for myself was theater. As though my pain was a costume I could shed at will. Something inside me chilled in that moment. I realized my son, the boy who once whispered secrets under blankets, had chosen not to see me for years. And I had allowed it. My silence had made me complicit. Ashley's fury rose quickly, her voice sharp enough to slice glass. You're selfish. My family is traveling from far away, and you're going to ruin Christmas over a whim. A whim. 5 years of unpaid labor, of humiliation swallowed, of dignity trampled, and she dared to call it that. I gripped the edge of the counter until my knuckles whitened, forcing my voice into quiet steel. It's not my problem. You should have asked me before inviting 25 people. Her mask slipped then, just for a second. This house will be ours someday, she spat. The truth finally revealed itself, ugly and bare. I was not family to her. I was an obstacle. Interesting perspective, I murmured. Ryan stood by, shifting uneasily, caught between the two women who defined his life. Mom, be reasonable, he said, running a hand through his hair. Ashley can't cook for 25 people. Then she'll learn, I answered. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Ashley shrieked that I couldn't leave. Ryan pleaded that it wasn't fair. Their words tangled together, but my decision was already made. That night, I locked my bedroom door. The glow of my laptop lit the papers I had kept hidden for months. Statements with Ashley's name, accounts she had opened under Ryan's, debts she had buried under false smiles. I had found the folder by accident while cleaning his study, and what I uncovered had chilled me to the bone. Over $50,000 in secret purchases, loans against the house, even conversations with friends about convincing Ryan to sell the home I had lived in for 30 years. For a while, I had sat there stunned, clutching the papers as though they might burn me. But devastation soon hardened into resolve. I had contacted a private investigator, a quiet man my lawyer once recommended. Within weeks, he handed me reports that confirmed my worst fears. Ashley's part-time job paid barely enough for rent, yet she told Ryan she earned 3 times as much. She had multiple cards hidden under his name. She boasted to relatives that our family was wealthy, that she would inherit a fortune, that our house was worth double its actual value. Lies spun into a web that strangled us all. And so I began my own plan. Quiet, patient, deliberate. I moved my savings to a new account Ryan didn't know existed. I met with my lawyer to discuss protecting the deed to my house, and most importantly, I drafted letters, polite, concerned, addressed to Ashley's most influential relatives. To Michael, the uncle who controlled business opportunities. To Chloe, the sister with a career in finance. To David, the brother-in-law with real estate connections. I presented myself as the worried mother-in-law, asking for advice. I accidentally attached bank statements that revealed the truth. The replies came swiftly. Michael's anger radiated through his clipped words. Chloe's dismay was clear. David pulled away his support. And the best part, they told none of this to Ashley. They waited, planning to confront her in person at Christmas. I closed the laptop that night, heart pounding. For the first time in years, I smiled. The trap wasn't mine to spring. It would collapse under the weight of her own lies. In the silence of my bedroom, the house creaked and settled. I could hear Ryan's muffled voice downstairs, Ashley's shrill tone rising and falling. They thought they were planning Christmas. They had no idea I had already planned something else entirely. I zipped my suitcase the next morning, each fold of clothing a step closer to freedom. I hid my china, my tablecloths, my decorations. I emptied the pantry, wiped the refrigerator bare, canceled the cleaning service. If they wanted perfection, they would build it themselves. By dawn of December 23rd, I would be gone. The note on the kitchen table would be brief but sharp. I have decided to move my trip forward. The house is in your hands. Enjoy your perfect Christmas. The taxi would arrive at 7, and as it carried me away, I would look back at the house that had been my cage and whisper to myself that it was finally mine again. What Ashley and Ryan didn't know was that their chaos had only begun. Because while they scrambled to replace everything I had taken with me, her family would arrive a day early, ready to confront her with truths that would shatter her perfect facade. And I, for the first time in 5 years, would not lift a finger. And I, for the first time in 5 years, would not lift a finger. The morning of December 23rd dawned crisp and merciless. From my hotel balcony, I watched gulls dive across the waves, while the phone on the nightstand buzzed like a trapped insect. Ryan's voice filled the first voicemail, ragged and frantic. "Mom, they're here! Michael, Chloe, everyone, they're asking for breakfast. The pantry's empty. Ashley's panicking. Please, at least tell us what to serve. They think we've lost our minds." Ashley's message followed, words dissolving into sobs. "Susan, I know you're upset, but you can't do this. They came so far. They're looking at me like I'm crazy. Just tell me where you put the plates, the tablecloths, the food, please." Another message, sharper. Michael's deep voice, steady but edged with disappointment. "Mrs. Miller, we arrived this morning. We expected a gathering prepared, as we were told. Instead, we find nothing ready. Ashley is unable to explain. We need clarity." I let the phone buzz against the wood, my coffee steaming in the cool morning air. I had clarity. The problem was theirs now. But by noon, a new tremor shook the edges of my confidence. A message from Chloe blinked on the screen. "We've reviewed her accounts further. It's worse than we thought." When I called, her voice was taut, brisk. "Susan, your daughter-in-law used Ryan's identity for additional credit. This isn't just debt, it's potential fraud. She also told several cousins you planned to leave her the house and a fortune. They lent her over $20,000 on that promise." The ocean outside seemed to tilt, horizon bending. Fraud. Loans on my supposed death. For a moment, my grip on the railing loosened, and I had to steady myself. "She speculated with your inheritance," Chloe continued. "She used it to convince them she was safe to invest in." A bitter laugh escaped me. "So she's already buried me in her imagination. I thought you should know," Chloe said. "We're confronting her, but she denies everything. She keeps insisting you're inventing it out of spite." In the background, voices rose. Michael in sharp Spanish, David in clipped phrases, Ashley's tone shrill and panicked. Then the line went dead. I stood alone in the hotel room, the silence pressing down like a weight. For all my preparation, the words identity fraud rattled inside me. If Ashley dragged Ryan down with her, would the law come knocking on my door too? My son was blind, but not malicious. Would he blame me for tearing the veil away? Doubt seeped in, curling like smoke. That night, I lay awake, listening to the surf crash like a metronome to my thoughts. For a flicker of a moment, I wondered if I had gone too far. Maybe enduring a few more years of humiliation would have been easier than this chaos. Maybe silence was survival after all. But then I remembered her eyes in the kitchen, gleaming when she announced 25 guests. Her voice calling me selfish. Her slip of the tongue, "This house will be ours someday." She had already written me out of my own story. No, silence was not survival. Silence was slow death. On the morning of December 24th, I rose before dawn, packed my suitcase, and called Robert. His calm voice steadied me. "The papers are ready. The trust, the deed protections, the residency agreements. If you sign today, everything is secure." "Perfect," I said. The taxi ride home was silent, the driver humming faintly under his breath. My house loomed into view, familiar and foreign at once. Rental cars crowded the driveway. From outside, it looked ordinary, wreath on the door, curtains drawn, but the air felt thick, as though every lie inside weighed on the beams. I opened the door with my key. The sound cut through the house like a blade. Footsteps hurried. Ryan appeared first, eyes swollen from sleeplessness, hair uncombed. Behind him came Ashley, her face stripped bare, lips cracked from crying. "Mom," Ryan breathed, almost desperate. "You're back." "Yes," I said, "and this time we are going to talk." Behind them, Michael emerged, his presence commanding. Chloe clutched a folder to her chest. David's jaw was set tight, Emily pale with disillusion. They had gathered like witnesses. Ashley stepped forward, voice trembling. "Susan, please, tell them this isn't true. Tell them the papers are mistakes. They think I'm—" "A liar?" I interrupted softly. "Then perhaps they finally see what I have seen all along." Her mouth snapped shut. The room bristled with silence until the doorbell rang. At exactly 10, Robert entered, briefcase in hand, immaculate as ever. His presence shifted the air from chaos to courtroom. "Good morning," he said evenly. "I'm Robert Sanchez, Mrs. Miller's attorney. I understand there are matters to resolve." Ashley paled, her voice breaking into panic. "Why is a lawyer here?" "Because after 5 years of being treated as a maid, I decided it was time to be treated as an owner," I answered. The words hung like thunder. Ryan swallowed hard, eyes darting between us. Ashley's hands trembled. Michael's expression sharpened. Chloe opened her folder, ready. And in that moment, standing in the foyer of my own home on Christmas Eve, I realized the storm had truly arrived. The papers would be read, the secrets laid bare, the family judgment passed. And none of us would leave this house unchanged. Robert set his briefcase on the dining table as though he had been expected all along. The metallic click of the latches was louder than any accusation. Every head turned. Even the walls seemed to lean closer, waiting. "Good morning," he said evenly, scanning the room. "I am Robert Sanchez, Mrs. Miller's attorney. We have matters to clarify." Ashley's lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for an ally. At last, she turned to Ryan. "Why is a lawyer here? Ryan, do something." Ryan swallowed hard, shoulders sagging. I don't know." I stepped forward, my voice low but steady. "Because after 5 years of silence, I refuse to live as your maid. This house is mine, and today, the truth belongs to me." Robert slid the first document across the table. "This is an amended will," he announced. "Effective immediately, This property cannot be sold or mortgaged without Mrs. Miller's explicit consent. Upon her death, the house will transfer into a trust protecting her interests and her son's, while prohibiting speculation or misuse. Ashley's face drained of color. You can't, she choked. Oh, but she can, Chloe cut in, eyes flashing as she flipped open her folder. Ashley, we've reviewed the documents, the debts, the hidden cards, the loans made using false claims about inheritance. Do you deny them? Ashley's hands shook, fingers knotting together. They're misunderstandings. I only wanted to gamble with my death? My voice sliced through hers. You promised money you never had, claimed a house you never earned, and buried me in your imagination so you could profit from my absence. Her tears welled, spilling as she turned desperately to Ryan. Honey, you know me. Tell them I'd never. Ryan's silence was louder than her pleas. He looked at the papers, then at me, and finally at her. For the first time, I saw realization flicker in his eyes. Michael stepped forward, voice heavy as stone. Ashley, our family trusted you. We lent money, offered support, because you painted yourself as responsible. Instead, you deceived us all. You humiliated this family. Uncle, please. Enough. His tone brooked no argument. Robert's calm voice resumed. Second, residency agreements. Ashley Carter no longer has unrestricted access to this house. Any visit must be approved by Mrs. Miller. Unauthorized entry will be treated as trespass. Ashley gasped. Trespass? In my husband's home? In my home, I corrected, the calm in my tone sharper than a shout. Ryan flinched. For once, he seemed to understand what those two words carried. Chloe's voice was a blade. Ashley, you opened accounts in Ryan's name. That is identity fraud. Do you realize the damage you've done? Ryan's head jerked toward her, his face blanching. What? Fraud? Ashley's voice broke into a sob. It's not what it looks like. I wanted us to have a better life. David's dry laugh cut through her wail. Better life? You lied to us about property values, dragged me into fake evaluations, wasted months of my work. You've shamed us all. Robert slid another set of papers onto the table. These outline financial restitution. Family members who lent funds will receive acknowledgement and repayment schedules. Failure to comply may result in civil action. Ashley collapsed into a chair, shaking her head. I can't pay that. I don't have the money. Then you'll learn to live within your means, I said coldly. Ryan pressed his palms into his eyes, voice raw. Mom, I swear, I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I answered. Every holiday, every spotless table, you never asked who made it possible. You let her shine with my work and pretended not to see. His hands dropped, shame etching his face. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough, Chloe said firmly. Your name is on those accounts. If this isn't addressed, you'll face legal consequences too. Ryan stared at Ashley as though seeing her for the first time. Is this true? He whispered. She reached for him, desperate. Ryan, please, believe me. I never meant. Enough, he said, his voice breaking. He pulled his hand back before she could touch him. Michael's judgment fell like a gavel. Ashley, restitution or legal action, choose. But either way, this family will no longer enable you. Robert closed his briefcase. The documents are ready. Mrs. Miller, with your signature, every safeguard will be in place. I picked up the pen. Each line I signed was a boundary etched in ink, a fence against 5 years of exploitation. By the final stroke, my hand no longer trembled. I looked up, meeting every gaze in the room. For years, I gave everything, my labor, my time, my dignity, believing it kept this family together. But what is family without respect? Nothing but a cage. That ends today. I turned to my son. Ryan, I love you, but love without respect is poison. Decide who you are, a man who excuses abuse or a man who stands for truth. Tears slipped down his face. He whispered, I'll change. I promise. Then begin now, I said. Finally, I faced Ashley, her mascara-streaked cheeks, her trembling hands, her eyes wild with fear. You will apologize, you will repay, and you will never again treat me as a maid in my own home. Do you understand? She nodded once, broken, unable to speak. The clock on the wall struck noon, its chime carrying through the tense silence. Outside, faint carols drifted on the winter air. Inside, no one moved. I gathered the signed documents, slid them into Robert's briefcase, and straightened my back. For the first time in 5 years, the air in my house felt clean. This home, I declared, is no longer a stage for your lies. From this moment forward, it is mine again. Michael nodded gravely. Chloe's eyes softened. David looked away, disgust still etched in his jaw. Ryan stood trembling. Ashley stared at the floor, hollow. I walked to the window. The winter sun spilled across the boards, painting them gold. Freedom gleamed there. But as I stood in that light, I knew this wasn't the final act. Tomorrow was Christmas. And tomorrow, the choice would be made. Who belonged in this house, and who would be left outside forever? Christmas morning still waited, and with it, the final reckoning. Who would stay, and who would be cast out forever? Robert placed his briefcase on the dining table with deliberate care, as though he were setting down the weight of judgment itself. The metallic click of its latches rang out like a hammer against stone. Every face in the room turned. Even the old clock on the wall seemed to hush, its tick swallowed by the silence. "Good morning," he said evenly, his eyes sweeping over the gathering. "I am Robert Sanchez, attorney for Mrs. Susan Miller. There are urgent matters that can no longer be postponed." Ashley let out a laugh too sharp, too loud, echoing through the tension like a broken glass. "This is ridiculous! Ryan, do something! Tell your mother to stop humiliating us! It's Christmas Eve!" Ryan shifted uneasily, his eyes flicking between me and the documents now visible in Robert's case. He looked like a man standing on a fault line just before it splits. "Ashley, I don't know what to say." "You don't know?" she snapped, her voice rising an octave. "She's staging some sort of coup. She wants to embarrass me in front of my family. You're going to allow this?" I stepped forward, my voice low, steady, and cold. "No, Ashley, I am going to allow the truth, and the truth is long overdue." Robert withdrew the first document and slid it across the table. "This is the amended will," he announced, "effective immediately. The Miller residence cannot be sold, mortgaged, or otherwise leveraged without Mrs. Miller's explicit consent. Upon her passing, the property will transfer into a trust designed to preserve her legacy and protect her son's interest while prohibiting speculation or misuse." Ashley's face drained of color. You can't do this. This house was supposed to belong to you." I cut her off, my eyes never leaving hers. "Is that why you dared to say it out loud? This house will be ours someday? You've counted me out already. But I am still here, Ashley, and I intend to be here for a long time." Michael's lips pressed into a thin line. His eyes, sharp and heavy, landed on Ashley. "Is this what you told us? That Susan adored you? That she planned to hand you everything? And you used those lies to borrow money from your own family?" Ashley's tears started immediately. "Uncle, please, it wasn't like that. I just wanted—" "You wanted status you hadn't earned," he snapped. "You wanted wealth at someone else's expense." Robert spoke again, his voice as precise as a scalpel. "Second matter, residency agreements. From this day forward, Ashley Carter has no unrestricted access to this house. Entry must be requested and approved by Mrs. Miller. Any violation will constitute trespass under the law." Ashley staggered back as though struck. "Trespass? In my own husband's home? That's insane!" "This is my home," I said, each word deliberate. "Built with my sweat, my late husband's sacrifice, and 30 years of my life. You married my son, not my house. If you want to be here, you will respect me. Otherwise, you will stay out. Ryan flinched. The truth was landing, heavy and undeniable. Chloe opened her folder, her expression grim. Ashley, the financial records are clear. Multiple credit cards in Ryan's name. Debts hidden from him. Loans secured by false promises of inheritance. Do you deny any of it? Ryan's head jerked toward her. Wait, what? Credit cards in my name? His voice cracked on the last word. Chloe nodded once. Yes, accounts you never authorized. That is identity fraud. Ryan's eyes widened, his skin paling. Ashley, tell me she's lying. Ashley's sobs grew frantic. Ryan, please listen to me. I never meant harm. I just wanted to give us the life we deserve. I thought once the business took off. By dragging my name through the mud? He roared. His voice, usually soft, exploded through the room. You lied to me, Ashley. You lied about your income, about our finances, about everything. Ashley reached for him, desperate, but he recoiled. David's bitter laugh filled the space. She lied to me too. I wasted months evaluating properties for her grand plans. She gave me false numbers, false promises, and now my professional reputation is stained. Ashley turned toward him, pleading. David, I didn't want to hurt you either. You used us all. He cut her off. I stepped forward, the fire in my chest no longer hidden. You used me most of all. For 5 years, I cooked, cleaned, and vanished so you could shine. You took credit for my labor and called me useful, like I was a machine. Enough. Robert spread another set of papers across the table. Third matter, restitution. Every loan obtained under false pretenses must be acknowledged in writing. Repayment schedules will be drafted. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action. Ashley let out a strangled cry. I don't have that money! You can't expect me to repay! You will, I said, my voice slicing through her sobs. Every cent, or you will face the law. Ryan dropped into a chair, his head in his hands. His voice came muffled. Mom, I swear, I didn't know. I didn't know she was doing this. You didn't want to know, I said quietly but firmly. Every time she boasted about a dinner, you believed her. Every time I stayed up past midnight cleaning, you chose blindness. You let her turn me into a maid, Ryan. You let her. His hands fell away from his face. Tears rimmed his eyes. You're right. I failed you. I failed Dad. Michael's judgment came next, as heavy as stone. Ashley, you will repay what you owe. Every dollar. Our family will not be mocked by your deceit. If you refuse, we will see you in court. Ashley sobbed harder, rocking in her chair. Robert's voice remained calm. Mrs. Miller, your signature will finalize these protections. I picked up the pen. Each line I signed felt like reclaiming a part of myself I had surrendered long ago. By the final stroke, I was lighter. I looked up. The room had transformed. Ashley slumped, mascara smeared, broken. Ryan stared at her with disbelief, shame hollowing his features. Michael stood grim. Chloe's eyes glinted with cold resolve. David's jaw tightened with bitterness. For 5 years, I said, my voice steady and clear. I gave everything. My labor, my time, my dignity. Because I thought family meant sacrifice. But a family without respect is not a family. It is slavery. That ends now. I turned to Ryan. I love you, son. But love without respect is poison. Decide who you want to be. A man who excuses abuse, or a man who defends truth. Tears spilled freely down his face. I want to change. I want to be better. Then begin today, I said. Finally, I faced Ashley. She was trembling, her voice hoarse when she managed to whisper. I'm sorry. You will apologize to everyone you deceived, I said, my eyes unyielding. You will repay what you stole, and you will never again treat me like a maid in my own home. Do you understand? She nodded, shoulders shaking. The clock on the wall struck noon, its chime reverberating like a judgment of its own. Outside, faint carols floated on the winter air, but inside, silence pressed heavy on every chest. I turned toward the window. The winter sun spilled gold across the wooden floor. For the first time in years, I felt the house breathe with me instead of against me. But this was not the end. Christmas morning was still coming, and when it dawned, choices would be made. Not on paper, but in flesh and blood. Who would belong in this home, and who would walk away forever? Christmas morning was still coming, and when it dawned, choices would be made, not by documents or signatures, but by what people were willing to face. The first light slid across the frost on my windows. The house was hushed, carrying the brittle silence of a family fractured, but not yet rebuilt. I rose early, as I always had, but for the first time in years, the motions were my own. I brewed coffee because I wanted to taste its warmth, not because someone barked my name. I laid one cup on the table for myself, steam curling in the quiet air. Ryan came down the stairs slowly, his face pale, his shoulders stooped, his hair unkempt as though sleep had refused him. He lingered at the doorway, eyes lowered, like a boy afraid of punishment. "Merry Christmas, Mom," he whispered, voice cracked. I looked at him steadily and nodded. "Merry Christmas, Ryan." He sat across from me, hands wrapped around a mug I had poured for him. He stared at the steam as if it held the answer to a question he was too afraid to ask. "I don't know how to make this right," he admitted, his voice thin. "She hasn't stopped crying since last night, but she won't admit anything either. It's like she's trapped in her own reflection, refusing to see." "That is her choice," I said gently but firmly. "Denial is always easier than change." He swallowed, eyes shining with something fragile. "Do you still love me?" The question caught me unprepared. I saw him as a boy again, slipping a dandelion behind my ear, insisting I was the queen of the yard. My throat tightened, but my voice stayed steady. "Always, but love without respect cannot survive. You'll have to show me who you choose to be, not tell me. Words are cheap, Ryan. Choices are what matter." Tears brimmed in his eyes, and he nodded silently. A knock at the door broke the stillness. Michael entered first, tall and stern, his presence filling the foyer like a gavel. Chloe followed, sharp-eyed and composed. David trailed, his jaw set, his silence more cutting than words. Ashley came last. She looked shrunken, her face raw from tears, her hair limp, her steps dragging. She no longer resembled the woman who had once strutted through my kitchen in heels and silk. Michael spoke without ceremony. "Susan, thank you for letting us gather. We've decided. Ashley must face the consequences of her actions. Every loan repaid, every lie corrected. Until then, she has no standing among us." Ashley's lips trembled. "I didn't mean—" "Intent does not erase harm," Chloe said sharply. "You deceived all of us. You endangered Ryan. You abused Susan's generosity. You don't get to call that a misunderstanding." Ashley turned to me desperately. "Please, Susan, help me. Tell them I'm not a monster. Tell them I'm not—" I met her gaze, refusing to look away. "You are not a monster, Ashley. You are responsible. Monsters are fiction. Responsibility is real, and it belongs to you." Her sobs shook her thin shoulders. She crumpled into a chair, hiding her face. Ryan flinched, his body tense as though torn in half. He didn't move to comfort her. His hands stayed flat on the table, knuckles white. Michael's voice softened slightly but carried no compromise. "Our family will no longer be manipulated. Ashley, you will repay what you took. You will face the people you deceived, and if you refuse, we will cut you off entirely." Ashley only cried harder, unable to muster words. Chloe closed her folder and looked at me. "Susan, you've done what many of us never dared. You drew a line." When they left, they gave me small nods, gestures of respect I had not expected but deeply felt. Chloe lingered longest, pressing my hand gently. "You reminded us that dignity is not negotiable," she said softly. Then she too was gone. The house fell silent again. Only Ryan, Ashley, and I remained. Ashley rose unsteadily. Her voice was hoarse, almost gone. "I'll leave today. I need time. Away." Ryan's eyes widened. "Ashley?" She shook her head. "Don't. Not now." She trudged upstairs. When she returned with her suitcase, she paused at the door. She looked at me, her expression stripped of pride. "I'm sorry," she whispered. There was no defiance in it this time, no performance, just a broken apology. She rolled her suitcase out without another word. Ryan carried her bag to the car. When he came back, his eyes were red. "What happens now?" he asked, voice small. "Now," I said, refilling my cup, "we rebuild, but we rebuild differently, with respect, with honesty, with boundaries." He nodded slowly, as if tasting the unfamiliar words. That evening, when the quiet grew heavy, I went to the closet and pulled out a small tree I had kept for myself. Not the towering one Ashley demanded each year, covered in glitter and ornaments she used to impress guests, but a modest pine barely 3 feet tall. I set it on a low table and decorated it with only 3 ornaments. The clay star Ryan had made in 2nd grade, crooked but bright with memory. A glass bird my mother had given me, fragile yet enduring, and a simple silver key, a reminder of what was mine to protect. When I switched on the lights, the glow filled the room softly. It wasn't grand. It wasn't meant to be, but it was mine. Ryan sat beside me, staring at the tree. His voice cracked when he said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I touched his cheek lightly, then let my hand fall. "You have work to do, Ryan. But yes, I still believe you can become better." We sat in silence, watching the small lights flicker. Outside, carolers' voices floated faintly from other houses. Laughter spilled across snow-covered streets. Inside, my home pulsed with quiet dignity, the kind that doesn't need to be announced. For 5 years, I had been invisible. Today, I was whole. Love without respect, I realized, is not love at all. It is performance. It is emptiness dressed in sentiment. True family is built not only on affection, but on boundaries that protect dignity. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, conversations, repairs, choices. But tonight, my house belonged to me again. I sipped tea, watching the snow fall, and felt peace settle around me like a shawl I had woven myself. What about you? If you were asked to surrender your dignity for the illusion of harmony, would you? Or would you stand, even if it meant standing alone? If this story resonated, share your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're listening from. And if journeys like this speak to you, stay with Roots and Secrets. Together, we'll keep telling stories that refuse to stay silent.